Just saw another bear. It's my third one of the day. 3 in one day in Glacier National Park. Crazy. This one and me stared at each other for like 30 seconds. It's kind of scary. We have a moose here. It's blocking the trail just ahead. I'm gonna start walking, but this thing is pretty big. Let's see what happens. Oh, we've been spotted. Hello and welcome back to the Free Outside podcast. This is the weekly solo episode where I just talk to the camera and myself and come up with anything I want to talk about. And this week, it was interesting. So this FKT I'm going to do in probably like 8 days from when this comes out. It's could be pretty hot. So I've been doing some sauna training and I was in there this week and a shoving match ensued. So this is a pretty big sauna, maybe like 20 people fit in it. And one younger kid actually put some sage or oil or something on the sauna heater just to put some smell into the world. And one guy got mad, yelled at him, and another guy, this triggered his PTSD, and so he shoved the guy. And the guy who got shoved and initially got mad went to management and told on the person for putting oil on the heater. So everyone involved in the story was between like 30 and 50 years old. So pretty fun when there's physical altercations in a place that's already 200 degrees. Maybe their blood was literally boiling. Okay, with that, into the meat of the episode, I thought I would just talk about some cool animal encounters that I've had over the years because they just have been pretty random, pretty fun, pretty interesting. Before that, if, you know, we don't really talk politics on the show, but both sides aren't great. So if you want to pick up one of these Make America Eclipse Again hats, link in the show notes. All right, let's get on to some animal encounters. So I was thinking a similar style episode to the one on hallucinations where I talk about all the things I've seen on the trails. I thought it would be fun to just do something similar, but in the vein of which animals I've had interesting encounters on trails. All right, let's dive into it. Should we go moose, goat, bear? I have a mouse one that's pretty fun. And what else? No real black bear ones. All right, let's just get into it. Okay, let's go with the moose first. So this one's actually straight out of my book on page 189. Just kidding, I made that up. I have no clue, but it is in there. I was doing the calendar year Triple Crown, which my book is about. The book is called Free Outside, just like the podcast. And I was hiking, I was near Steamboat Springs, so in the Zirkles. And I came around the corner and I saw these elk antlers laying in the ditch by the side of the trail. It was getting close to town, so the trail was kind of raised and it just looked like there were these antlers laying on the side. So I was thinking like, wow, cool. I will be in Steamboat Springs I will be in Steamboat Springs later today. I can just mail these home and then I'll have elk antlers forever. So as I get closer, I see the antlers begin to move. They are attached to a moose. The moose still owns his antlers. And I thought this was pretty funny. And there's two moose actually laying in this ditch. And one of them just slowly gets up and he stretches and just like craning his neck, looking around. And then he turns kind of sharply and looks right at me. And it's this inquisitive look. And before I can really decipher what it means, this moose sprints at me and lowers his antlers and is thrashing him side to side. And I dive into the bushes next to the trail. They're like blackberry bushes and got all scraped up and crawled through those and then hid behind a tree. So I didn't do really a ton of research before doing the calendar year Triple Crown. I think everyone that does it these days does a lot more research. But what I did learn, since I hadn't encountered a ton of moose, was that moose have really bad eyesight. So the way to get away from one, if you're being attacked, is to hide. They're also really stupid. So I hide behind the tree. Moose can't see me anymore. He's thrashing about in the bushes, just knocking the blackberries back. But then he raises up his head, looks around, and it's that look of like he forgot what he was looking for. and it was really funny. I have a clip of it. If I'm really good at editing, I will drop that clip right here. Pause for effect. There's 2 moose here. Hey guys. Hey. Moose. Hello. 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 Oh boy. Oh boy. That's a big one. Moose. Hey. Excuse me. This is awkward. Alright, can you guys move? I gotta walk by. Wish the lighting was better here. Hopefully I don't end up on those antlers. I just got charged by that moose. I had to run. This is getting crazy. Okay, and so when he did that, he just like sauntered back to where he was laying down. I backtracked on the trail, went down, went lower on the hill, and then just went all the way around below where the moose were and continued on my way into Steamboat Springs. So that was my funny moose encounter. I was literally charged by the moose. I did not have bear spray at the time. I'm pretty sure I mailed it back when the grizzly habitat was over, but this moose, that's when you need that bear spray, I guess, for moose. Okay, on that note, great transition here. We're going to move into my grizzly story. So this one actually happened on the Great Western Loop in 2018. So let's just go back to 2014 was my first time hiking through grizzly habitat. It was on the Pacific Northwest Trail as I crossed into Idaho from Washington. I think that's where the grizzly habitat starts. I carried bear spray, and I believe, I had a bear can, so carried that too. But I was very nervous. Like, I would sometimes get worked up with anxiety and play my phone out loud. I would just do all sorts of hooting and hollering to keep the grizzlies away. So I was scared. But then over the years, I got accustomed to it. I wasn't so scared of grizzlies anymore. After the calendar year Triple Crown, felt pretty good. Saw grizzlies in Glacier National Park, and now I've seen them a number of places. I actually saw some last weekend, obviously. But anyways, the grizzly situation of it all, I was on the Great Western Loop in the Bob Marshall Wilderness, not really too afraid of grizzlies anymore, respected them, kept my food pretty well protected just so that they wouldn't get themselves in trouble. But I'm walking through the Bob Marshall Wilderness past the Chinese Wall, drop down. I think it's called it's a really weird name. It's like the West Fork of the North Fork of the something River. Anyways, I cross that, and then I come around a corner and I see a grizzly bear with its head in the bushes. 2 cubs are with it too. Not an ideal scenario. But I've thought through this for thousands of miles at this point, so I pull out my bear spray and have it in my hand. The mama bear pulls her head back from the bushes, and the cubs take off into the into the growth. And the mama bear just looks at me while I hear the cubs crashing through the bushes. Then she kind of gets up on her hind legs, puts them down, and sprints straight at me. Well, all the research that I did on moose, I did not do on grizzlies. I was not sure when to deploy my bear spray, but I was holding it, so I was prepared for when and if that ever might have even happened. So I'm holding it, and the bear is sprinting at me. And about 15 feet away, she just stops. She gets up on her hind legs again, growls a little bit. I'm shaking, holding my bear spray, and just slowly start backing up out of the picture, trying to give plenty of space, plenty of room so that there are no issues here. Well, I just got charged by a grizzly. I came around a corner, and a mother grizzly and 2 cubs were in the bushes. And she pulled her head out and charged straight at me. I took out my bear spray, and about 20 feet away, she stopped, got up on her hind legs, looked at me, turned around, ran back to her cubs, and off into the bushes. Coolest day ever. Then she puts her feet down aggressively, turns around, and crashes into the bushes after her cubs. Now, the story doesn't end there because as, I'm very worked up, adrenaline. I just thought I was going to get killed by a grizzly bear, which is quite a way to go out, but probably not the preferred one for me. So I keep walking, and then I see these two mules tied up, and I just have to spill my story. So I just start talking to them. I go, hey guys, I just got charged by a grizzly. It was so crazy. I have so much energy right now. I am super wired. I'm just saying all these things to two mules. And then I look past them, and two hunters are sitting about 50 feet away, having their dinner around a campfire. So it was super strange that they just saw a mountain man with a huge beard, plenty of hair, talking to their mules about getting charged by a grizzly. With that, and being self-conscious, I just retreated and kept going into the woods. So that is my grizzly story, ended with talking to mules. All right, now let's move on to goats. I think my best goat story, I got two good ones. Okay. One, I was doing all the Colorado 14ers, all 58 of them in 2015. Yeah, 2015. And I'm by I'm in the Creststone, so I'm going to do Creststone Peak and Creststone Needle, I believe they're called. And then there's like Humboldt, might be a peak there. Any Colorado listeners, if I'm wrong, apologies, but we do not do show notes. This is a ramble-a-thon here. Anyways, so I hike in, and I believe I camped in the valley. Then I tagged Creststone Peak. Thunderstorms rolled in, so I wasn't able to get the needle. I had to come back a different time for that. But I'm getting water in the valley here, just filtering some water. And another group of people that I'd seen on a couple other mountain ranges in Colorado was there. And we chatted, and they were also on a quest to climb all the Colorado 14ers that year. So we chatted a little bit, and there were these goats kind of just meandering around. Like, they were not too afraid of people, which is never great, but it's never too scary. You just don't want them near your food. And they also will like chew up your poles because they like the salt of the sweat on the handles or in the cork, and they'll eat your clothing and stuff like that. They're just salt mongers, basically. So they're just kind of wandering around, and we're getting water, chatting, and then one of them just like sprints, zooms by like 5 feet away, and then another one just sprints by like 2 feet away, and before long they're just like crisscrossing us everywhere, like they're trying to send a message to get out of there. They obviously feel territorial over the water there, so we packed up quickly and got moving. We threw everything in our packs and then just moved on like a couple 100 yards and continued chatting from there. But it was really strange. I've never really thought of goats as that territorial, but apparently they are. The bighorn sheep in Glacier are actually pretty fun, kind of on the same topic. And the other interaction with goats this was in 2013, so these details are going to be interesting to get right. But in 2013, I was living up near Mount Rainier, and every weekend I would go out into the mountains, have a good time of trail running. I didn't know I was trail running, but this was the start of trail running. Like, I'd run the downs, run the flats, and then hike the ups, but I was still in the stage of that you have to run every step to be a trail runner. But anyways, I went out one evening after work, and I was 2 years off doing the Pacific Crest Trail. Camping through hiking was a big part of my life, so I really wanted to get back to my roots and get out there and camp a little bit before going back to work again on Monday. And I climbed up Norse Peak. It looked really cool, and it ended up being very cool. I believe it's Norse Peak. It had a really good view, and I kept climbing. I had a lunch packed, and it was like, I'll just get to the top, and that's when I'll eat my lunch. So I'm climbing. As I get near the top, this is like semi-off trail. I like to call it hints of trail. Like, there was a trail on a map, but very, very seldom used. So there were few signs of trail, but it was some kind of route. But I get up there, and there's more goats at the top. I kind of chase them away. I mean, they just run away when they see me coming because I'm so intimidating and the Tiger King, obviously. But anyways, once I chase them off, I sit on top and I pull out one of my sandwiches. I was a big ham sandwich guy at that point in my life. So I'm eating up there, and just, it's an epic view. It's really cool. And then the goats I see coming up the scree field. It was very hard to get up here, but it was a cool challenge, and it was worth the view for lunch. Quick sip of coffee there. And so these goats, they slowly start creeping up, and then one of them climbs this really tall spire and just stares right at me. And this is the leader, the billy goat. And they all start creeping up. Soon they're on the ledge, and they've like cornered me against the scree field. And this is when my adrenaline just spikes. I'm so nervous about these goats just like running at me or attacking me or doing something weird. So I throw everything in my pack and just skedaddle down. And once again, the billy goat just starts sprinting by me, trying to intimidate me, get me out of there. They obviously wanted to be the top dogs, or the top goats in this case. So I descended and gave them back their peak. So those are my goat interaction stories. Let's see, I gotta have some more. So I guess I've been pretty good with at least food storage to the level of not really having any mice problem. But one time in northern Washington, had my meal. It's raining. It's, I don't know, let's call it August or September, but it's raining in Washington. So I'm eating in my tent, as you're not really supposed to do, because that's when the mice come in. But it's raining, and so I'm eating in my tent, probably have a couple crumbs, and then I go to bed, brush my teeth and go to bed, because all thru hikers brush their teeth every night, obviously. So brush my teeth and then go to bed, and then wake up to scurrying all over me. It's a mouse in my tent. And you better believe I went from fast asleep to wide awake with a headlamp on so quick. Like the fear of losing all my food is going through my mind. The fear of like getting bit by a mouse or something. So I corner it in the bathtub floor. I think I had a Gossamer Gear tent at the time. It was probably the one. Shout out GG. And I just kind of flicked the mouse out with my hands and zipped her all up and went back to sleep. I was too tired to do anything more about my food, but it worked out. So that is my mouse encounter. Let's see. Ooh, I guess humans are an animal. So on the Great Western Loop, once I left, the Continental Divide Trail and went on the Grand Enchantment Trail near Doc Campbell's. I believe that's right. So many trails, so many destinations, so many miles to remember. So I left, and I was right by the highway one night when I camped, and it's fine. I mean, it's a pretty rugged route at that point. You go Grand Enchantment Trail, Arizona Trail, and then just like your self-drawn trail to connect that back to the Pacific Crest Trail in that southern portion. So everything is rugged, resupplies are hard, distance between water's pretty hard. And I camped by, I don't know if it was a highway or a roadway. Anyways, something where there were a consistent amount of cars. Set up my tent, fall asleep, everything's good. I can usually sleep through the passing traffic, no big deal. But I am asleep, and then I just hear this car pull over. And all the guys, I can just hear, I'm wide awake now. They are definitely drunk, slurring their words. They pulled over to pee. And while peeing, one of them sees my tent apparently and yells that not to do anything funny because they all have guns. So that is a good thing to hear when laying in a tent. So I just yelled back that I was just camping, backpacking there, and I didn't have a gun or have any ill will or anything like that. And then I just laid down and was very triggered until I heard the car drive back off. It's not good to hear that they have guns, and then, 1.1 was like, we have guns and they're out and pointed at you if you try anything weird. And it was like, why would I try anything weird? I don't have a gun. I'm a skinny hiker. I'm literally just trying to camp here before I can resupply in town tomorrow. So that was pretty fun. My human interaction on the Great Western Loop. Oh man, I'm going to have to do a whole nother episode or solo episode series on just like hitchhiking. because my hitching stories are so funny. I have one of hitching across the entire state of Arkansas, and one of my rides told me that she was the lost princess. Is it Annabella? Anastasia, I think. Yep, I'm so good. Anastasia. So she told me that her grandmother was the lost princess Anastasia. She was related to her, and that her family and father were quite rich, and also offered to let me stay at her house. But at the same time, she smoked multiple things in the car. The windshield cracked, and she said she didn't have a driver's license. So that is a story for another day. I think we're losing touch here with what the episode was about. So back onto animals. Let's rapid speed the animal encounters here. Okay, one other one that I had was, I swear this happened, but it sounds super crazy. So I was doing the Appalachian Trail as part of the Calendar Year Triple Crown. It was like still winter, ice season in Maine, very cold, very dark. Have to cross multiple streams and night hike almost every night. So I was getting tired, but I was getting close to the end of the Appalachian Trail. I'm pushing hard, and I crossed this log, like a one-lane log across the creek. So I cross it, shine my flashlight in front of me, and a fish, like it looked to be like a 4 or 5 pound fish, jumped out of the water and just laid on the log. And I swear I just pushed him back into the water with my foot. This one is one where it's something that sounds more like a dream than what actually happened, but it is clear as day in my mind and when it happened. So a fish literally jumped out onto the bridge that I was walking across, and I had to kick him back in. That's a crazy one. All right, coyotes. Let's just rapid fire a few more animal encounter stories. So I was training for the Arizona Trail FKT in Arizona. I just moved from Tahoe to nowhere. I still didn't own a car or anything, so I just traveled out to Arizona to do the Arizona Trail FKT, and I'm training out there, and I was logging miles, and I set up my camp near Oracle, it's in the Tucson area. And in the middle of the night, the coyotes just went off, and then they slowly got nearer and nearer, louder and louder, and they started circling my tent. It was so scary with how much they were howling that I started yelling at them to try to warn them that I was literally camped there and they needed to go somewhere else and do something. So that is my coyote story. I barely slept that night. I was very scared, they were just like whoop, 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 all around my tent. So not great feeling. All right, let's do a fishing story now. So I was in the Wind River Range, I think it was the Calendar Year Triple Crown, and I ran out of food. I still had like 24 plus hours to get to South Pass City, and all I had was like 1 or 2 packets of instant mashed potatoes. But through the areas with lakes and fish and stuff, I would carry a bit of fishing line and like 10 flies. So what I did was I tied the fishing line onto my trekking pole and then tied the fly on the end of it and flicked it into the depths of, I believe this was Pipeline Lake that I was at in the Wind River Range. And immediately after like 10 casts, I caught 4 fish, and you better believe they helped me get through that section. Capuchin monkeys when I lived in Cojuita, Costa Rica, every time you crinkled any wrapper or a bag of chips, they would just like sprint up and hiss at you to try to get you to drop the bag that you're eating out of so that they can steal your food. This happened one time, and it was so scary. It was like, I don't know, almost like a scene out of Jumanji where they were, the Capuchin monkeys were trying to reclaim the land. All right, mountain lion. I was running... So I was doing, Calendar Year Triple Crown again, and I was on Mount Ashland. I was descending. I was going to get picked up. Was I getting picked up? Maybe my family was just meeting me at Callahan's restaurant in Ashland the next day. So I really needed to just get there so that I could resupply and just connect and get there when they opened and stuff. So I was doing like 40-mile days, and I was running down Mount Ashland, and soon in like the darkest dark, I heard this hiss and then the sound of like a screaming child. And later I would learn that that is often associated with mountain lions. And I was so scared by that. I sprinted, like I was hobbling, kind of jogging downhill before that. After that hiss, you better believe I sprinted for like 3 or 4 more miles until I found somewhere to camp. On the Arizona Trail, I saw a scorpion in the crossing of the Grand Canyon. It was pretty crazy because it wasn't like glow in the dark. It was kind of iridescent. Iridescent? Is that a word? Probably. It was kind of iridescent though. So that was super interesting. And this was the final push, the final like 2-3 days or something. And when I saw that, it was like, am I hallucinating or am I actually seeing this? I believe I actually saw it. That's why it's on this list and not the hallucination list. And last one, let's just go with good old dogs. On the Pinhoti Trail, there's a pretty long road walk, and I was walking down, and then 2 pit bulls got through their fence and started sprinting at me. They did not look friendly at all. They were snarling. They started lunging at me. I had trekking poles, so I pointed one at each of their noses, their snouts, and pushed them back so that I could get some room. And then finally, the guy whose house they came out of, he heard them and he sprinted out of his door and after them to try to corral his big old dogs. He was a gigantic man, and I did not think someone that big could run that fast. But he eventually got there while I'm holding him back, just with trekking poles pointed at each of them and kind of edging him forward so that I could get more room to continue hiking on the Pinhoti Trail. He grabbed him, took him back inside, and then we were all off, and it worked. Okay, those are some of my best animal encounters. This week, actually, I spent, 10 hours or so, maybe 12 hours, doing trail work out on a local trail with the Forest Service, and we built a bridge. It was pretty awesome. But like I showed up and didn't know anyone. It was through this mountain bike program, actually. They're the most organized as far as trail work goes out here in Bozeman, Montana, unfortunately. But connected with them, went out, showed up, and the Forest Service guy, Josh Kinsley, who ran it, he was like, who wants to carry this heavy cable that is going to go with the come along so we can move logs? And just being nervous, insecure, with anxiety, I was like, I'll carry it. And I walked up there, and then he goes, do you have a pack that you can carry it in? And it was like, I was so embarrassed and already committed. So I was just like, nope, but it'll be fine. And so for 1.5 miles, I carried that in a pick. And it was very heavy and my shoulder hurt just from carrying that and the lack of confidence to say that I couldn't carry it. So that's my trail work. We built a bridge across this seep. First, we had to knock out the old bridge. It was pretty good. But I also have blisters on my hands. So a bit of a working man now. So pretty proud of that, showing that just don't just sit behind a computer and make podcasts. Out there in the field, getting blisters and learning about making bridges instead of burning them. All right. This weekend, I'm recording this on Friday. It comes out on Monday. I'm doing a 70-mile run with Bozeman Run Club called Scummy Summer Slammer. It's very cool, follows the divide, and I think I'm going to start from my house. So I think we've covered everything from the sauna to wildlife to this weekend. And rate, review, follow us, rate and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you are so inclined, subscribe and like on YouTube. Let it play in the background. We got to get those views and runtime. But with that, thanks again for joining us. Love you guys. Stay elite, my friends.